Well, I told you I'd be back. I'd be back to talk about that other VHS tape I found. And the VHS tape in question is Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. The adventure begins. Featuring the star of Toy Story, Tim Allen, voicing Buzz. Now, this is a show that Disney tried to bury. Perhaps you were a child of the 90s, or maybe even born in the late 80s and was a child during the 90s. Perhaps you remember the television era of the animation juggernaut that was Walt Disney Animation. They made plenty of movies that were very popular and very successful during the 90s and late 80s, such as The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Tarzan, Toy Story, and of course, they made animated series, TV shows, off all of them. All of them. Every single one got an animated TV series, and Toy Story was no exception. But they had to do something interesting with Toy Story. First, they had to make a sequel. Toy Story 2. The very first sequel to a Pixar movie that had ever happened, and was the only one for quite a while. But then they started making sequels to Monsters, Inc., Finding Dory, and all these other stuff besides. But this was the first sequel, and the only one for quite a while. And it was a very good one. It's probably my favorite of the Toy Story franchise. And it really expands on the story of the Buzz Lightyear character. We get to see who Emperor Zurg is, and we get to see that it's basically a Star Wars parody. Star Wars and Star Trek meet crossover parody kind of idea. And it was a fantastic little story. And I got reminded of this movie in, I want to say, 2019, when Lightyear, the movie Lightyear, came out, which completely changed the story of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command's origins. Because as of these movies here, it was based off, I want to say, a video game and a TV series. This was the TV series that was supposed to have existed in universe to Toy Story. This is what made the action figure of Buzz Lightyear. This was what made the action figure of Emperor Zurg. This was their story and all of that stuff. This is where it came from. At least that's what they were trying to do at the time. When you put this VHS tape into your VCR and you get to see the little Pixar CG animated opening, you get to see that this is a show that exists within the Toy Story universe. And of course, we see in the second movie of Toy Story, Rex is a very big fan of the of the Buzz Lightyear video game. We see him pick up a magazine in Al's Toy Barn, where he gets to learn about how to defeat Zurg in the video game. So he wants to get all of the codes and tricks for that, because you remember this is the 90s. If you wanted ways to beat stuff, you couldn't just go on to GameFAQs as easily as you used to. You had to get a magazine. You had to look at the codes of the magazine, like Nintendo Power, PlayStation Magazine, and all that other stuff. You had to figure it out that way. And it was a fun time. It was a very old prehistoric time. But Rex got the magazine, he's looking up all of that stuff. It's an in-universe big adventure story, and I thought that was fantastic. It was a fantastic little idea to make Buzz's background be this wacky little adventure. It was 2D animated and it was released direct to video. Of course, it didn't get a theatrical debut, obviously, because this was going to be turned into a TV series. This is basically the pilot for the TV series. But I liked this one better than almost all of the other TV series shows, mainly because a lot of the TV series shows aren't as good. Hercules 1 was mostly Hercules before he got all buff. The Emperor's New Groove one was when he went to school. It's called The Emperor's New School. That one's pretty funny. I did watch a bunch of that. There's a bunch of stuff with Patrick Warburton. In fact, in the TV series of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, when it actually hit television, Tim Allen obviously didn't continue to voice Buzz for the entire TV show. They got Patrick Warburton to voice Buzz. So Patrick's no stranger to the TV series tie-ins and all of that good stuff. What else did they do? The Aladdin TV series, I did watch a bunch of episodes of that. It's not that great, but I would say it's a little bit better than Hercules, at least in my opinion. The Hercules movie, though, is fantastic. It is one of the best things I've ever seen, but the TV series is not as good. That's usually how it works. Almost all of the direct-to-video sequels to most of these Disney Renaissance movies weren't as good. Only a few of them actually ever did hit theaters, and I think Lion King 2 hit theaters. I think that's one of them. Toy Story. The Pixar movies, definitely all of them did get theatrical runs because they were actually really well thought out and really well worked on. Toy Story 2 is one of the best sequels to a Pixar film, I would honestly say, ever. It's one of the best ones. And I do honestly miss this 2D era of Disney. Pixar was the 3D CG animation side, while Disney was making 2D animation. And I think that the 2D animation, that art, is something that we should not lose. They're still making 2D art, obviously. They're putting it on their streaming services, and it's stuff that they put directly onto that, but they don't put it into theaters anymore. 2D animation isn't thrown into theaters. It's only CG now, and we've kind of lost that connection of Pixar and Disney movie, because both are CG now. And obviously Pixar usually tends to have a higher quality about it, but it's just disappointing to see them lose interest in 2D animation. I think the last one that hit theaters was a Disney movie, and I think it was a Winnie the Pooh film from 2010 or 2011. That was like 14 to 15 years ago since we had the last 2D animation movie hit theaters that wasn't an anime from Japan or something. That's disappointing. It's tragic. 2D animation is one of my absolute favorite mediums. I grew up on it. It's why I continue to watch anime, you know? I love 2D animation, and of course they're obviously doing digital animation on most of the newer anime now, but classic anime, you know, it's an art form that fascinates me. You know, when I popped in Lion King a couple months ago, I had the DVD of that now. I have the VHS tape somewhere else as well. It's one of these clamshells. I got almost all of the Disney Renaissance in these clamshells. These clamshells are a fantastic thing. I had a great childhood in regards to Disney movies, man. I picked up almost all they picked. It's a great time. But as I was saying, the Lion King, there is behind-the-scenes stuff that wasn't on the VHS tape of The Lion King, the DVD, and I ended up watching all of the background information and all of the animation techniques that they would use, and I saw all of the little doodad machines that they would use to draw all this stuff to get the animations and layering it all, and it was fascinating. I was like spellbound watching all of that stuff, and I'm like, why can't we continue that? Let's bring those little doohickey machines back and get people drawing again, you know? But that's a rant going off topic from Buzz Lightyear here. But I'm not gonna get into anything with the Lightyear movie, but if I'm going to compare Lightyear to Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, which one's a better origin story for our hero Buzz Lightyear, I would say it is definitely Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. He is a true hero in this film. What is the story about? Well, Buzz Lightyear opens the story as a space ranger. Obviously, he's working for the Federation, a Star Trek-ish type of Federation. It's a little bit more militaristic, so it's kind of Star Wars-ish. We have an Emperor Zurg out there playing the Team Rocket Emperor Palpatine role of Saturday morning villain, because it was a Saturday morning cartoon, pretty much. And so Buzz Lightyear has a partner named Warp. and a mission goes afoul, and Warp seemingly dies, and Buzz ends up very saddened about that. His captain wants to replace Warp with a new partner, and Buzz says he wants to work alone. He does not want another partner after Warp, but they keep throwing him in a partner because that's the rules. He's got to follow the rules because he keeps playing Maverick. And so he gets partner after partner, and they don't do as well as he wants. And he ends up getting a robot partner, and then he thinks, oh, this guy is pretty good, and then the robot gets destroyed. And then Buzz once again loses his faith in having a partner because partners will just slow him down. And then he eventually learns the glory of teamwork when he gets 3 partners. The robot gets repaired, but now he's a goofy robot with comic relief because, it's a kid's show, obviously. And then we get the female badass fighter, and then we get a janitor turned space ranger, and it's fantastic. It's a fantastic little wacky little squad that Buzz puts together. Warp turns out to be alive, but he's now working for Emperor Zurg, so they take Warp out, and they stop Emperor Zurg, and they save the day. It's a very light-hearted movie. It's a Saturday morning cartoon show pilot, and it's the feature length to about 3 episode length, and it's fantastic. I loved this movie a bunch. I've watched it tons of times. Obviously, you see the VHS tape here. And, of course, do I have it rewound? Have I rewound my tape here? I did. Yes, the tape is rewound. I'm not showing you the tape, though. It's got writing on it. But it's a very good movie. I would definitely recommend giving it a look. But, of course, like I said, Disney's trying to bury this show because it's not on Disney+. It's not. I'm sorry. You're not going to be able to find it on Disney+. You're going to have to look for the DVD or VHS tape or find some other way to watch Buzz Lightyear of Star Command featuring Tim Allen, starring Tim Allen. And I definitely would recommend at least watching the pilot movie. The TV series by itself is also pretty good. It's just big stories in episodic length. Sometimes they're 2-parter episodes, but it's generally a really good show. If you're especially a fan of stuff like Star Trek and Star Wars, and you just want something to show your kids of the type of science fiction that you really loved as a kid, to a kid, this is the type of science fiction TV shows you show them before you show them Star Trek or something, right? It is a fantastic little piece of history that I don't think should be buried.